started a couple minutes early. Just wanted to say again, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and click the hand signal and ask a question. And if need be, we could try unmuting you if you want to ask a question beforehand, if anybody wants to do that. I saw that we had, I hope everybody's had a chance to go to the beta site and see the recordings. We've had everything done so far, plus the bonus recording about the generosity plan with Alan Wilds, which was very good. And also, we've got a lot of resources and links up there. I know there's been some questions about books that Marshall has referred to, and I believe all of those links are now up on the beta site, right along with each of the sessions. So hopefully that will be helpful to you and will be easy to navigate. We'll also be putting this session up on the site probably tonight, along with some other resource materials that Marshall has, and he'll be covering that pretty soon. So I don't see any hands up, so I'm going to assume we don't have any questions. What we'll do is, just like in previous sessions, I will mute myself, hand it over to Marshall, and then after Marshall's done, we will have some time for questions and answers if you have anything that comes up that you'd like to ask Marshall. So I'm going to minimize that. And Marshall, give me a second to my screen full screen, and I'm handing it off to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Marty. Appreciate it. Well, hello, folks. I hope you guys are doing well, that you had a good weekend, and that you're ready to drink out of this fire hose again, as we're going to go through part 3 today, preparing to build, planning, and design. We're going to step into design today, and so I trust as we go through it, you'll be writing down or asking questions, and we'll be able to answer those at the end of the presentation. Once again, to remind you, there are 5 parts that we've broken the building process down into. Today we're going to be looking at this in design, planning, and design. Again, the importance of the project timeline and being able to prepare and plan well, because once you release the industry professionals and they begin to make their design, and certainly once you mobilize the contractor and begin construction, making changes and then trying to plan, it becomes much more expensive. And so it's imperative that we, as God's stewards of those things He has entrusted to us, that we prepare and plan well. I want to talk to you about the master plan preparation to help you get everything together so that you know what you're going to say to the individuals. You want to communicate to them what you want them to produce, the end product, with your master plan. There is a process that we encourage you to go through in the master plan. It can be done in different ways, but let me give you, just outlined here, several things that I think will help you. If you get your ducks in a row, here is a process. Now, I am going to be providing for you on our website, as a member of our webinars here, a document that gives this written out in form. So you don't need to be scratching a whole lot of notes about every little detail that I say, because I'm going to be giving the documents to you so that you can train your building team, your building committee and subcommittees, and prepare them to engage with the industry professionals. The process that you follow in getting ready for the master plan is that you do need to ponder, in preparing for your meeting with the design professionals, at least 5 things. First off, you have to be able to articulate with clarity what God's vision is for your church. What is the church going to be when it grows up? If you're going somewhere, where is it? What does it look like? And what is it supposed to do? How are you going to accomplish that? The architect and the engineers and the builder are concerned about this when it involves construction, design and construction. Secondly, along with having vision clarity, is to have a well-defined mission that is focused, and you're trying to explain to them what the church is trying to accomplish for the community and the congregation. Thirdly, is to have a plan, and a plan is how the church is going to accomplish its mission. And you should develop some sort of strategic master plan for your ministry so that you can give that document verbally and in writing to the designers so they can show you different ways to fulfill your ministry master plan with your campus, your facility master plan, your site. And so as you prepare to talk to the architect and the engineers, the design team, the construction team that you have selected, you have negotiated with them, you're now under contract, you're going to meet with them, and either at the meeting or before the meeting, you provide for them this information. The fourth thing, vision, mission, a game plan. The fourth thing is financial ability. What can the church afford to do? How are you going to pay for it? No one else may be overly concerned at that moment about how you're going to pay for it, but we've been harping on, preaching to you. You need to be concerned about it so you don't pay the architect, engineers, and the builder and audiovisual lighting engineer and all the others, that you don't pay them to even do the master plan and start certainly into construction drawings without having a clear understanding of your capability financially as to how you're going to pay for what they are designing. The fifth thing is you need to give them your needs that are prioritized. What does the church need to build in order to fulfill your vision and accomplish your mission? When you give them your needs, you would do well to prioritize your needs. The second step, along with getting your ministry master plan in place where you can communicate your vision, mission plan, financial ability, and the needs of your ministry prioritized, is secondly, there are some affordability and design rules that you've got to have a balance between what the church builds and what the church can afford. Therefore, the church must establish a list of prioritized needs, then determine its financial capabilities in order to effectively design and build your next building. In other words, if the church cannot afford to build everything in phase one, the first phase you're going to build of the master plan, it's what you're building next, then it can roll some of that need by priority into the second, third, and fourth phases. So the master plan serves as a great tool for you to revisit how you're designed as a ministry, what your financial health is in congregational health, and then to decide what is mission critical and prioritize those things, and then work with your architect, engineers, your builder, and others on your team to create a master plan program that will show step by step in writing and on a big site plan board, and everything that we're covering here will show how you're going to get from where you are in your ministry to where God wants you to be. So to summarize here, you're going to have a needs analysis that determines how you're going to use your ministry space and develop it, programming. So you're showing them what you need and you're prioritizing it. You're going to do a financial analysis that will determine the size or the scope of the project, the cost of it, and then you've got to balance together your vision, your ministry design, and your facility design so that your wallet can afford what you want to build. There's no sense setting them out designing something that you cannot afford. In doing this, as you move through this process, I gave to you one of our earlier times a long-term vision for your campus. This is where you begin to drill down into what you think God wants you to do on that piece of ground, whether it's 3/4 of an acre, a half an acre, to 150 acres, that you think through what you're going to do on that property. And the questionnaire will take you through 72 questions, tell you how to organize it. When you hand that document in its form that I've given you or in another form, and it clearly communicates what the architect is to include and not include on the full master plan of your campus. He'll be thankful, or she'll be thankful, the team will be thankful that you did it. They will be thankful that you had thought through these things, and so they can go and begin to figure out all the pieces. For example, if you decided on a brand new piece of property, nothing's on it, you're going to cut down at what trees, you're going to put your first building where on the property, what are you going to build second as you plan this out, how are you going to do the parking, where might you put third, fourth phase with education, fellowship hall, gymnasium, pavilions, ball fields, activity centers. Maybe you're going to have a place where you've got a camping area. I mean, the sky's the limit as to what your vision is for your campus as you take your ministry design and all that it's a part of who you are and what God's called you to do, and you take that and begin to plug it into your new campus. Where do you need to put what? It's better to have all that designed so you're very efficient and effective and wise as to where you bring the utilities in, where you put a detention or retention pond, all the different components that make up a site, a campus, to be able to include it in there from the beginning as best as you can project as to what you're going to do. This document will help you do that. Secondly is a programming exercise. I provided one for you. It should be on the website later today or tomorrow. And, excuse me, as you do this, what you're going to do is take everything you do in your ministry, and you're going to write it down, and you're going to talk about what you're doing, where, when, and with who, and for how long. I have given you a document that it's several pages long. It's not exhaustive nor fully comprehensive because there's too many different ways people are doing church. And so this document is set up to begin getting your thinking going. On it, we deal with worship space and auxiliary ministries during your worship services. So if during your Sunday morning worship, all of your church family is in worship, what is going on along with your worship in your auditorium, in your sanctuary, in your worship space? You've got to think through that and how you want them set near or far and what all of that means. And so covering your worship space, auxiliary. If you have an educational program, Sundays or midweek or during the week, or fellowship space in your building or out of your building, outside, that churches are putting this kind of space in different areas and on their property, not just indoors, but pavilions. And so you've got to look at the total number of people you're educating or fellowshipping with at one time and how you're going to go about doing it. For instance, in a fellowship hall, if you're going to use round tables, the square footage is a rule of thumb, is 18 square feet per person. But if you're going to use rectangle-shaped tables, 3 by 8, 2.5 by 8, the size of them, you're looking at 12 square feet per person in your planning. And you've got to be able to plug this in. Well, you need to tell your architect what you're going to do and then what you might use that building for at any time in the future of your ministry. We talk about administrative space. No sense developing an office wing for one secretary and one pastor when you're planning on hiring a part-time secretary and a full-time assistant pastor when you move into the facility. Or if you're a larger church, more. And you may want to be very creative about how you put together that administrative space so that it accommodates how you're functioning as a church. In this program and exercise, your educational, like Sunday school, or small groups that may be meeting at different times on your campus, to know when they're meeting, what age are they, so we know how to assign a square footage to each person. It differs by the age group and the activities they do, your philosophy of ministry and education and fellowship and recreation, how you do things. In any space, the architect needs to know that. Here's an area that often is not thought through clearly, and that's storage. How many spaces do you need? What do you plan on storing? Where do you, if you want more than one, where do you want it located? Here's another area. Your circulation space in a building. The architect may lead you through these exercises, but to keep us from being, as leaders, that we look like we're caught in the headlights, like a deer caught in the headlights, we want to know that he's going to be asking this. I've been in churches in the last 6 months where I came to their nursery area, and the hallway was so narrow that two families stopping across the hall from each other to pick up or drop off their children, it would have made it virtually impossible for another person to have gotten through the hallway. Your circulation, how you move, the congregation. Recently I was in a worship area where they used the fellowship hall, but they had one way in and one way out of that fellowship hall, and 600, 700, 800 people jammed in there. And when it came out, you've got an 8-foot hallway, a 6-foot door, and that's the only way to get in and out. And other things going on. They never thought they were going to use the fellowship hall as a worship environment. And it had all kinds of drawbacks. As I sat and watched the service go on, that they were having to work around everything that they had designed for round tables or rectangle tables and to feed people was not set up and conducive thoroughly to be able to worship in there when it was full. All these different things. What about your lobby and your foyer space? Are you going to have a third place like a coffee or cafe? Are you going to have a sitting areas or multiple sitting areas? Maybe more than just in one entrance, but maybe have them on different sides depending on how you do your parking and entrance. That you may set up a youth area with a different setup there to receive people, to let them congregate and be together. Than you would in the children's wing. You may do something completely different in another part of your building where you'll have maybe families come in that are empty nesters or singles, college career, or maybe you've got parents with their grown teens, their older teens coming in. You need to think through what you want to do in that space and how it fits in your ministry design so that your lobby and foyer space, you can tell the architect, we don't want to create a cattle chute here. We want to create a corral. And here's how we're going to capture people and minister to them and let them minister one to the other in this space. Because if you're going to put a coffee house in your lobby, maybe it's nothing more than a built-in serving area where you've got people behind there fixing their drinks and handing them their coffee. But you still need to have the lighting, the air, heat and air, the electrical, the outlets, the drainage, the sinks. I mean, it depends on how elaborate you're going to go. It's a lot better to think through your programming, how you're going to function in that place ahead of time. Here's an area that often is left off, and that is events and activities. Sometimes we plan our facility and we don't really think through exactly what we're going to do in every single area. And we do need to know and tell the architect once a year, we're going to have this event, and it's going to be done both inside our building and all over our campus. And we're going to have, we normally have 300 people in worship, but we're going to have 900 people come to this activity whatever that is. It can be in your gymnasium with the National Invitational Tournament for basketball, men's or women's, boys or girls, or it may be outside with soccer, or concert, or drama, or preaching, or any number of things that you might do, whatever God has told you to do on your campus, thinking through the events, whether it's done daily, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, biannually, annually, or once every 2 years, whatever is set up, that you have included that as a part of your programming exercise so that you can not leave yourself behind the 8 ball, so to speak, and not able to really meet the needs of an event or activity that you're doing, whatever frequency it is. Here's the next thing. We provided this for you, programming example. It's a rather lengthy document. Again, this one happens to be pretty comprehensive. It's a lot of pages, but the reason why I'm giving it to you is so that you can take your programming, hold it up next to this other one, and perhaps identify an area of your ministry as you think through every part, person, and place and program in process and procedure in your ministry, that you may be able to hold it up, look at it, and it jars your memory that you go, oh, we did not think about this in our children's ministry. And so there's a program and exercise provided for you. This is the time for you to be perfecting your feasibility study. A feasibility study should help the leadership of your church and your congregation understand what should be built to meet the vision and needs of your ministry. A feasibility study should balance your ministry needs against your financial ability. Once needs are clarified, a ministry plan is developed based on your financial ability and other constraints that may be there. And you collect the information about your current site and facilities and ministry, both present and future, the demographics of your congregation, who you're trying to reach, and your community, who you're trying to minister to and reach, and your projected growth, along with your past performance. So you're trying to put together this information so that you know where your ministry is going to go when you project out how it's going to go and grow, and you're looking at your facility and your future plans for building, and you're trying to put together how you're going to get from where you are to where you ought to be with at least 3 things: your money and your manpower and the mechanics of your facility. So you've got to look at this so that your ministry design, your manpower, your facilities, and your money, all of those are blended together, orchestrated together to show you what is possible on that site, what is possible within your financial capabilities, how are you going to man and serve, and you're going to have to recruit and train and engage volunteers, not just paid staff, to make your ministry prosper. Are you going to be able to do that as you move on to this new property or as you build this next building? Feasibility studies can help you think through and pull all the pieces together. Later, as the Lord tarries and gives us opportunity, we'll develop separate webinars just on how a church does these studies. It may take an hour or two, 2 one-hour webinars, and the tools for you to perfect this and help you. Until then, you'll just be putting it together as I'm teaching you now. You want to get your total budget perfected. Why is this important? So that you don't leave any part, person, or cost out of it. We've given you a tool to help you generically, preliminarily budget with items that go underneath each part of your budget. We put it into 6 parts, 7 if you're buying new land, and then those have things that go underneath each category, and you need to have everybody involved in this, but you need to have all your finances together in some kind of preliminary budget so that you know as you've engaged with your industry professionals that they have to pull this together within your budget. Now, let me talk to you about something that often is misunderstood. You as a church get to pick 2 of the following three things about your new facility and campus. The three things are the size of your project, the cost of your project, or the quality of your project. You can pick the size and quality, and cost is dictated to you. You can pick the cost of the project and decide this is how much we're going to spend, or the size of the project, and then the quality is dictated to you. I wish I could give you all three, but I've never seen it where they could dictate size, cost, and quality of the project and get all three. And so in your budget, you can't go ask for a huge building built like the Taj Mahal, and so you've got size and quality, and you want it for the cost of a metal building. I regularly have, and it's a common question, and you'll have this question and ask it to everyone as well, what is this building going to cost? When it comes to planning a facility, and people ask me, what is a building going to cost per square foot? What is the site work going to cost per square foot? What are the furnishings going to cost per square foot? The answer to that is about as easy to answer the question of what does a bag of groceries cost? Well, if you ask that to your spouse, she's buying the groceries, she's going to probably look at you like you've lost your mind. What's in the bag? Is it steak and lobster and clams? Or is it potato, carrots, and peas? Or is it a blending of both? How big is the bag? Where is the bag purchased? At an outlet warehouse, grocery warehouse? Or is it bought at a mainline grocery chain? And if you live in one part of the country, it may be more expensive, or another part may be less expensive. How is the economy doing? You've got all these things to put together. We've got to know the size and quality and how much money you're going to spend to begin working. And so we're collecting all of this information that we can collect as a church to be able to give it to qualified industry professionals who can serve us well, because we've given them the right information and given them clear direction as to what we want. And then they're going to help and bring their expertise to the table. But we do want to have some idea of a total budget and perfect it so it's not pie in the sky, or we're talking in a way that the industry professional is going, you think you can build that for $25 a square foot? It's going to cost $125 a square foot. You need to begin working and educating yourself so you can talk intelligently to the industry professionals and let them guide you. Here's another thing that you would do well to figure out. There are land and code questions that you want to make certain the industry professionals answer them. I've given you an attachment, a document that is a master plan research questions, and there are 24 questions on this, so that as you go through this, it is my suggestion to you that you ask the industry professionals to answer these questions and to get the questions answered from the right person. And the effort here is another set of eyes. Questioning and asking is a help so that in the multitude of counselors there is safety. And so these questions are not for you to boss the industry professional around. It's simply to partner with them, your building team, with your industry professional team that you have selected, to be able to make certain that all the questions are answered that are necessary. You say, well, why is it important for you to know this? Well, what if no one bothers to ask on this new piece of ground what the impervious coverage ratio is, or what the zoning restrictions are, or if there are any deed restrictions or covenant restrictions? What about the land there? Is there something you can or cannot do on the property? What about the conditions of the soil? All of these things are a part of doing your due diligence before you go full force into the master plan. These questions, in my opinion, need to be answered. So there's research that you and the industry professionals do, so that when you spend your $5,000 or $25,000 or more dollars to produce a strategic master plan for your campus, that you have left no stone unturned to answer the necessary questions, so you don't foolishly have to go back and redesign your master plan, start from scratch, or have to make adjustments to it because you didn't bother to ask. So the document, it is my intent and prayer, will be used to help you as you interact and engage with the industry professionals of your choice, the builder, engineers, and architects and others, so that they have answered the questions and can safely move ahead with those questions answered, that gives them guidance about what you can do on your property. The last thing in preparation that I'm listing today is a minimum survey requirement. One of the things that the civil engineer and the architect are going to ask you for is a recent professionally performed topo and boundary survey. It is like the Bible to them as they start. They're placing their decisions of where they're going to put what and how they're going to do what based on the boundary survey. Shows the boundary lines, legal boundary lines, done by a surveyor, a professional surveyor, and the topographical gives them, and it has in it, and it's going to show them what's on the property. Now, I'm giving you a minimum topographical survey requirements. This was provided through the years by industry professionals, and we've added to it through the years to be a tool, and so there's lots of folks to thank for putting this together. But you can get one from the surveyor, but from the architect, but for the time being, this may serve you well. You ought to show on the survey, show existing buildings, their location, size, and their finished floor elevations. Knowing where the floor elevations, as the ground goes up and down, is it sitting at this elevation, sea level? Is it sitting at 100 feet sea level or 5,000 feet sea level, above sea level? Or is it sitting below sea level? They need to know where that is. All the corners tagged in reference, existing spot elevations, you want to show it in 1 foot intervals. Sometimes guys have asked for it in 2 foot. I know my architect friends and I have downloaded off of county or city records online and gotten 5 foot elevations of the property contour. How the land is done is, as it changes 5 feet, it shows you a line that waves through the property on the site plan. Well, they're going to ask for 1 foot because they're trying to catch any shift. It makes a difference with water, parking, and any number of things with how they design it. Elevation of all roads, center line, and existing edges of pavement. All these different things. You want to know where the major clumps of trees are, where are your utilities, any sheds or buildings, any other thing that is there. You want to know what's on your property and try and figure that out. So if there's gas lines underneath the ground, you want to know it. If there are power lines underneath the ground or overhead, you want to know where they are. You want to identify water lines and all these different things so you know what's there, because the civil engineer and the architect and the other engineers are going to design this around that survey. So it needs to be recent. I've been told no more than 6 months old, but ask your architect and your engineers, your construction team, what they need, and let them communicate with your surveyor so that everything is given and it's done correctly and promptly, and then they're going to base their work of that master plan and your first phase from that master plan on that survey. This is something that, as far as I can see, and I've been all over the country, is required basically everywhere you go. Let me review for a moment. So you can move forward as we talk about, as we're preparing to deal with the industry professionals. You have several things to cover. Feasibility studies, so you're balancing your wallet and your wish list. Healthy church studies, indexes, so that you have identified where your church is healthy and hopefully fit for the building process. It's a pastoral shepherding exercise to determine if your congregation is fit for the task ahead of them. Demographic and psychographic studies, so that you know not only your congregation and how they're made up, but also your community, those that you're called to reach with the gospel, and how they think. Master your community and the culture of your community so that you're able to take your new tool, your building, and your congregation and connect them to lost people and reach them with the gospel. Strategic development studies. If you're going to do a master plan, know what your game plan is. Land and code analysis, which we just talked about here. Programming studies, so you know, here's the rule. Function, how you function as a church should dictate the form of the building, how it's designed. What happens after you're in a building for a period of time and your ministry continues to grow, your walls don't grow with you unless you design them to be flexible. So you can design into the design of your facilities flex space that lets your body, your church family, your church body grow and develop, and you're prepared for that. So if you can map out how you expect it to grow, and that's a part of the programming exercise document I gave you, then you can know, well, we're expecting to reach 20% more young couples with children under the age of 4. That means that our preschool, newborn, nursery through 4-year-olds, we're going to grow an extra 35% in the first 2 years, and we need to map that out. What are we going to do with those extra new students and parents? You can put that into your programming, project it out, give it to the architect, and the design team and the builder will work with you to figure out how to carry that out. What are we going to do if and when it grows as we project? So in your programming studies are very important and a part of your strategic planning for your campus and for your ministry. And then budget development is that, think of a filter, and you're funneling everything down into this filter like a screen and sifting it, and you continue to perfect and to sift and perfect and sift, and to let things kind of sit, and you meditate on them, they marinate, and you meditate on your budget and each component of this, and you revisit it and recheck your numbers and talk through it and pray through it and talk to those in and out of your church. And what you're trying to do is plan well so you can spend your money wisely. So master plan preparation, it at least includes these things that I'm giving you that's on the screen at this time. And then you're going to perform. Now, you're taking all this information that you have gathered so you can talk in an intelligent way and give clear direction to the architect. And you're going to communicate to all of these different players that you have engaged with, maybe on the front end of this project. And now you've got to articulate verbally and in writing to make certain they know what they're going to do. You also want to communicate the following things: what you want and what you expect. What are they going to deliver in this master plan? Because there can be confusion. Communication with the architect is very important. These are people who are well-trained, well-educated, and probably well-experienced in dealing with customers, but they may not be experienced in dealing with churches. If they're dealing with the business owner, he owns the business, can make the decision. He runs his products or services or both. He's been doing it for a while. There's probably other models that he can follow, and he does it. When you get to a church, you may not be dealing with just the senior pastor, but you're dealing with committee or committees, team or teams, and a whole congregation, and it there can be confusion as to how to work with it. Help the architect, help the engineers, help the other industry partners articulate it, talk through it well enough that you have identified that when you tell them you want a 4-year, what do you mean? And you have them so you don't have miscommunication. You want to be able to study and verify your vocabulary and the definition of the words you use, because it can happen where you miscommunicate. You may want to ask them for samples of the work they're doing. If they tell you they're going to charge you X number of dollars for a master plan, and maybe they say schematic design, then say, show me an example of one you've done for other churches so I can see exactly what we're going to get for our money. How long did it take, and what information did you need from us to produce this? So you're being a good steward and business person to communicate to an architect who is professionally trained to serve the client, and you want to make certain that you're asking them for the steps in their process. You're trying to gather as much as you can so you communicate very clearly what you want and expect and what they're going to deliver for what cost and when. And then what might it look like? And they can show you a site plan. They can show you an elevation, the outside appearance of other buildings, a floor plan. They can show you what a presentation might look like, but you've got to communicate with engineers, civil engineers, audiovisual lighting engineers, and IT infrastructure engineers that are designing your IT equipment and services in your ministry. Interior designer. Often interior designers are not included until after the design is done, and the engineers have already put the outlets and the light switches and the light fixtures, and the other engineers have put their equipment for fire protection and all these thermostats and all this other stuff all in the building. And then you bring the interior design in and think all they're going to do is pick out the color of the walls, the paint on the walls, and the color of the carpet, and match the furniture to the carpet and the colors of the wall. And folks, that's a very surface duty of an interior designer, a much needed one. But when you begin to put the furniture in there and begin to function in it, a good church interior designer can drill down, can put the microscope on the function of your ministry and begin to help everyone involved navigate their way through. If you're going to have that coffee house in your foyer, in your lobby, or in one of your big hallways, what is that going to require? What power, electricity are you going to need to bring? How much counter space do you need? Are you going to need a refrigerator there and to get different kinds of equipment and a cleanup space? You've got all the answers with the government, your local governments, with food service to answer. It differs from place to place, but an interior designer can help you with these and other questions so you don't come back and you've got extension cords laid down all over the place because no one put a big enough breaker in the right place to service your function, your event, your activity, your class, your service. Suppliers. I tell you, if you get a good church supplier who's, let's say that you're going to use pews, stackable chairs, excuse me, perhaps stadium seating in your auditorium, and you bring those guys in, they know how big their furnishings are. They know how big the pews are, the chairs are, the stadium seating. They know how they work and how they best fit together. They know how long they will be. And to have those guys looking at your floor plan to assist and help from their perspective, they're not telling the architect what to do. They're coming along as a second set of eyes, working together as a team. Why not have those consultants or those suppliers in line with you on the front end to help? What you're trying to do is perfect the design as best you can so that you can be a good steward of your money to make it happen. Audiovisual. I think I mentioned this in an earlier webinar that we historically in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and 2000s here, have designed it and then gone to the audio-visual lighting guys and say retrofit everything here, and you're asking them to go back and take what you've designed and make it fit for your sound, your lighting, and your power screens and your projectors and anything else that you're doing there. You need to be able to communicate very clearly what you want out of that, what level you want, and to go through it. And so those are the things in your performance that you need to do. After you've given them all this information, you've gone over the material enough and had enough meetings and enough discussion, you want to release the architect and engineers to develop a master plan. I would encourage you to consult with a civil engineer and a general contractor. The civil engineer is doing the site plan to make certain that your water runoff and all these other issues with having a piece of property where you've got all these people driving on the campus and using the facility at one time on that campus. The civil engineer is there to do the site plan, and he's dealing with dirt and water and electricity and gas and oil and anything else that's going on there. You want to have him there. One of the unknowns or difficult things to estimate is the cost of the site work. And so you want to have him there and a general contractor, and the general contractor may go get subcontractors and begin bringing them in and getting help so that you have estimated the cost of what the architect is putting together as a master plan for your site. It has to be within your financial capabilities, or why would you spend all this money to design it? They're a part of the team. The general contractor and civil engineer can help you price out, give a genuine or true or accurate, authentic, an accurate cost estimate of what you're looking at master planning. You've got a lot of questions to answer. I've given you a master plan research set of questions that you want the architect and the engineers to have, and before they go and do a whole lot of work, they ought to go ask these questions, because if they just assume that something is this way on your property because it was that way across the street, they might be wrong. There might be soil tests that you want to take and other tests that you want to do to the soil along with the surveys, so that you have all your ducks in a row, you found out what you've got, and so that it may determine where you put your first building, or where you locate your sidewalks and your parking, where you put your detention pond, whether or not you can do certain things, or how much of the ground you can cover with asphalt or concrete or shingles, metal roof, a building. And so you want to go through that. You finalize your master plan with multiple reviews. Here's what I'm going to encourage you to do, and I'm going to tell you why. So catch this very well. This I would jot down. Who do you want to review your plan, your master plan, as it is being developed? And there might end up being 3 or 4 visits to you or emails from the architect showing you that he is taking your verbal and written directives and he's turned it into a design. And he's trying to filter out, screen out what doesn't meet your taste and your ministry design and what does, and he'll walk you through. But as he goes through this, who needs to be looking at this? Well, certainly the architect and his staff, engineers, civil engineer, general contractors, suppliers, audio-visual lighting guys, anyone else. And then the leadership of your church, the ministry directors of your church, the staff of your church, the volunteers who serve in your church, your others that may be involved. If you've got different committees that are overseeing different aspects, a lot of eyeballs given time to look at it. So don't surprise anyone with this design. Build momentum, ownership, and buy-in to what you're doing, but give them a chance to look at it. Here's what happens if you don't. You can go through a complete master plan, leave out a key component of inquiring and asking them to look at it, get the master plan done, present it on Sunday, unveil it to the congregation, and a couple people walk up to you who you have not included in the process of the preliminary plans that are a part of the master plan process with the designers, and they look and go, oh, what about that? We can't use that for our teen ministry. Didn't you realize that we did such and such? So all the way back to your programming exercise, going and pulling out of the people who are actually doing the work week in and week out is key to being able to give to the architect and engineers, your interior designer, audiovisual people, all the players, all the industry professionals. You have to do a full job, a complete job of pulling in all the players. So you finalize the master plan with multiple reviews. Do not leave any person out of this. Insist that they look at it so that you come up with a good master plan, because you're going to go spend a good bit of money to do construction drawings, and this is where we're stepping into the design phase. And they kind of flow, all of these steps flow one into the other. They flow one into the other, where sometimes you can't tell where one stops and another starts. The master plan, what are the contents? Well, you're going to have a site plan. A site plan, and I'll try and have one for you at our next webinar, part 4, the final phase of this, final session of this first phase on construction. It shows maybe on a big board where it takes the full topo and boundary survey, where you're putting phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the buildings, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 of your parking, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 of your ball fields, and on you go to the full development of it, and shows how your ministry design fits in and through these facilities. You'll show your site on a big board or on the computer or on your power projector, so people can see where phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going, and you're going to use that to show them your vision, a compelling vision that energizes them to be involved in the mission of the church. It all works together. A floor plan, phase 1 floor plan. Elevations. That's the outside appearance. What's the building going to look like? You need to make certain your architect is including this in your design, in your package, what you're paying for. There are presentation options. You can get an artist rendering. You know, for years before we had personal computers and access to them, an artist would be paid a fair amount of money, $1,500, $2,500, to do an oil or chalk or watercolor or some other way that he would do an artist rendering of phase 1 and maybe your site plan, and you would show that on easel board to your congregation, to your banker, and to your community to show them what you're about to do. Well, they're still used today. Years ago, architects would build an actual model of your building, and that was the 3D presentation that was a part of the art of being an architect, was to show you a model, like a model train, except this was a model building and on a model site, so people could visualize what they were going to get, and it was to generate buy-in, excitement, momentum. Today you can do computer-generated 3Ds that can show you, and these are pretty exciting. You can put music to them. You can put someone's voice. You can take them and show this computerized generated 3D. I've seen them done where you start as though you're flying above the building, so you're showing the roof line, and then you come down ground level and you show the wall and the sidewalk and the parking and the ball field, and you're walking them through talking about the vision and what the building is and the facilities are going to be like, and then you fly them through the main entrance of the building into the lobby and show them the third place and the welcome center and you show them the sitting area where they can congregate, talk, and meet with family and friends and the people they brought in, and maybe TVs up on the wall that give announcements, or maybe some video of life change that is going on in your congregation, and you talk about that as you go down the hallway and maybe enter your worship space, and you show them the platform and all the components of that and what a service might look like and sound like in the sitting area and all the components of your educational and fellowship hall, and you're just revealing and walking them through so they have a visual image. The price on this is going down as the technology is more used, more popular, less expensive to buy, and people are trained on them where they can generate this. But an architect or another company, the architect or you could hire, could present a whole marketing plan and branding for your church through using a computer-generated 3D presentation of your new building. And it is a tool to help them get energized and energetic, excited about what you think God wants to do in and through your congregation and in your community for Christ. That you believe this is within your reach financially, within your capabilities to power it, to pay for it, and to have manpower to carry out the ministry there. And you use this as an opportunity to bring everything together with your ministry design, how you're put together, your vision and calling and game plan, and your campus, your facilities, the tools that you're using, and you marry those together. Function dictates form. In doing this, and this is the last thing, you're going to do several things before you move into construction drawings. Construction drawings are your structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and other engineering disciplines that are going to put the wiring in the wall to bring the electricity and the conduit to carry the electrical wiring. They're going to put the design and show the builder where the plumbing piping is going to go in the floor and the roof and the walls. They're going to design the building either 2D on paper, as we've done for ages, or 3D on a computer, which is a newer software that has been developed and is being used by architects, where it's a 3D image where the builder can peel back the sheetrock, see what's behind the wall with insulation, studs, framing, with the electrical and plumbing, HVAC, conduit, everything is there so that he can price it out better. But when you release them, you're going to spend 2%, 3%, 5% of your site and building, whatever agreement you come with the architect. The lion's share of his fee and work is going to be the architect and the engineers designing your building in its guts, in its skeleton, in its internal organs, in its skin, in all of its function, how it's going to serve your ministry. You've got to do, number one, confirm your budget. Here's what you're going to need. I would tell you, and I've been preaching this to you, get confirmation, verification, and a commitment letter from your lender if you're going to borrow money. Your capital stewardship campaign should have been coming along here as you're moving toward your finishing your master plan. Before you release the architect to spend all that money on your construction drawings, you want to know what your pledges are and what percentage of those pledges you believe will come in, are coming in. Maybe your first fruits offering is there, and all you've invested thus far is putting your team together in-house and industry professionals and the cost of this master plan, the survey, and the tests that go on your property. You're trying to make certain you spent money well spent up front before you release the industry professionals to spend a lot of money on construction drawings, detailed construction drawings, and then, of course, move into construction. So you have your lender and your fundraiser that you want to know as you take your budget. Do those two add up as you look at how much you have on hand, cash on hand, how much you're able to raise, how much you're able to borrow, minus your debt. Does that fit within the budget of your proposed phase 1 from your master plan, so that you can safely release them to do the drawings, let them do their work, so that over the next 3 to 6 months, as they do the design, the construction drawings, and come to you with stamped plans ready for permitting, ready for bidding, ready for construction, that you know that you've done all you know to do as a steward of those things entrusted to you, that you have gone about this in a process, in a way that is tested and true, and is allowing you not to replace the industry professionals, but to work with them, so that you're up to par and a good client. Realize this: when we go through our building programs as ministries, as churches, there is a ministry in the process of preparing, planning, designing, building, and caring for the property and facilities that we build. You're going to have opportunity to come in contact with local authorities, with people in your community who have an interest in what you're doing, all the industry professionals who are part of them, and it may end up being hundreds of people that you have first touch with during this process. Don't miss the fact that there is a great opportunity to fulfill the Great Commission during your building process, and that all of those people have a soul and are going to spend eternity, as you and I are, in one of two places. And because this process is such a pressure cooker, it's why I tell you up front, you must see if you are spiritually fit and healthy, but fit to be placed under this pressure cooker that is going to tempt you to let your old nature loose, arguing over dollars or timeline or services rendered or something else that is going on, because there are going to be bumps and bruises, cuts and scrapes, and maybe something broken or broken off. During your process, are you prepared spiritually in your relationship with God and in your spiritual maturity to handle this? Because the more money you release and they're producing services and products for you, that you're going to have to deal with disappointment. It is a part of life. It is a part of the process. So prepare well, and then spend your money wisely, so that you can say that you've been a good and wise steward before the Lord. Thank you for giving your time to educate yourself and to begin pulling together your own process that you're going to follow in working with the industry professionals to get your new facility, your addition, your new land, whatever it is you're doing, so that you're ready to move ahead in a way that's done decently and in order. Thank you for listening. All right, folks. Marty, if you want to unmute them, they may have questions they want to try and ask us. If not here, hopefully we can hear them, but also be able to email me questions as you wish as well, or call me on my cell phone to be able to.
That was a good presentation, Marshall. I especially like the part about presenting the plan, being in marketing. Communicating with your team is incredibly important, and being able to communicate what it is that's in the plan and getting everybody on the same page is incredibly important. If you have a question for Marshall, go ahead and raise your hand and I can unmute you. I know we've got some guys here that don't have a mic, so
that's Nathan, I think.
Right. Let me. I don't see anything in the question area yet, but if you have a question, you can either type it in the question box. Okay, Stephen. I'm going to unmute you, Stephen. Okay, Stephen, go ahead.
Okay, the question I have is there anything like a book or printed material that can help plan a capital stewardship campaign?
there are different resources. Are you planning on doing your campaign in-house where you're going to lead it, Stephen?
That's the assumption at this point.
Okay. Let me put together certain ones. The written plans that is like a do-it-yourself campaign, those things come and go, and I don't use them very much, but let me pull together some of those off of my resources, and I'll email them to you. Would that be okay?
That would be great, Marshall. Thank you.
You'll have your links. I'll try and give you the link so you can go right to it and get it. Stephen, as I review these, if I find something that I think is really good, I'll tell you. If I find that none of them really look like they're going to fit well, I'll tell you that as well. But you'll have to investigate and, of course, select one
Okay.
that God tells you to. But I'm here to help you facilitate it. Maybe find some things that you wouldn't find if I wasn't in the game.
Okay, that would be great. That would be great.
Any other questions, Stephen, that you've got?
No, thank you, Marshall. That answers that.
I think Pamela's got a question. Marty?
Okay, Pamela, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead and ask your question.
My question is, if he doesn't recommend the do-it-yourself campaign, what type of campaign does he recommend?
There are 5 or 6 different companies that we have dealt with through the years that are capital stewardship consultants. They're firms who do nothing but do capital campaigns or generosity coaching for churches, for nonprofits. For years as a senior pastor, Pamela, I didn't use them myself because I wasn't comfortable with the way the guys went about it. Secondly, it was expensive, and we chose not to spend our money that way. When I say expensive, you have different companies that will do it by the percentage of cost of your project or by the income annual giving of your church. But I can send you several companies. I'll email you several companies that you can go to their websites, interview them. But a capital campaign, at least the ones that I use and recommend, they will charge you according to your ability financially, and then they come and help you put together your leadership team for the campaign, your marketing and branding, your game plan. And what happens, let's say that you have $200,000 a year. I'm just making this up. Let's say your income for the church is $200,000 a year, and you have 150 people, and the capital stewardship consultant comes in and charges you $15,000 to $30,000, depending on who they are and what he's going to do for you. He will come in and work with your leadership to develop team and teams, and then teach you and help you navigate your way through to do things you wouldn't know to do yourself in order to see your people catch the vision for what God is doing, commit themselves to God and to your building campaign, and then walk you through how to promote it, what language to use. He is working behind the scene coaching you through this so you can know the impact of this and the difference. If you do a capital campaign in-house, the national averages that I am told by industry professionals as they try and follow and track this, a church who does it themselves, where the pastor and maybe 1 or 2 other leaders are involved in telling the people and standing up and saying, we're going to build this building, we want you to give a pledge, here's a card they made up, and take it. If they do it in-house, they're going to raise 0.6%, 60% of 1 year's annual giving, up to 1 time the annual giving. If you use a capital stewardship consultant, a coach, who comes in, who's on site, who's dealing with your leadership, who's coaching them through it, who's helping you put your game plan together and doing all these things that I wasn't taught in school, nor did I learn how to do them as a senior pastor for 18 years. But they have made this into a decent and orderly scientific approach, say scientific, but a pattern approach that helps people grow spiritually, and it's all about life change, spiritual change and maturity, to commit themselves to Christ and to what Christ is doing as you partner with the Lord as his bride to build your building. The results are this. It's going to be 1.5 to 2 times your annual giving, so the consultant, on the average, pays for himself many times over, helps you engage many more of your people into buy-in, taking ownership of what God is doing there. More people in volunteer to serve, and I've literally heard people in churches tell me they hated to see the campaign end because of the spiritual growth they were experiencing as they came face to face with the Lord about their own stewardship, time, talent, and treasures. And so the main thrust of the guys that I would recommend to you, they're going to come in and serve as the stewardship shepherd or stewardship pastor to help you direct your campaign. I have seen campaigns bring 3 times the annual giving, all the way up to 6 times the annual giving. But we tell you not to budget your project thinking, well, we're going to get 5 times our annual budget in a pledge campaign. That's just wrong. That's not wise. You can safely plan on 2 because you're going to land somewhere around 1.8, maybe to 2.2 times your annual giving. That's good stewardship. There's sufficient track record to show that, but not 3, 4, 5, and 6. You pray that because you can borrow less money or build more building or get more furnishings or do some other things. And so I can email you, Pamela, some companies for you to consider, or we can talk by phone if you like to, if you want to call me later. Any other questions you folks have?
Okay.
Did Pamela or Stephen have any other questions?
I will unmute you. Pamela, do you have any more questions? Was that answered for you?
No, I do not have any more questions.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see. All right, Stephen, did you have any more questions?
Marshall, I would like the same list that you're going to send to Pamela on consultants.
I'll be happy to email that to both of you. And you're welcome to call me back and ask questions if you like.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, sir.
All right. I don't see any questions in the box, so I'm going to think that's it for today. If you do have something that comes up, questions about the content, please feel free to email or call Marshall. And if you have questions about the beta site or any of that going on, you can email me about that, and we'll try to get that answered. We're hoping that it's been a smooth process for you to be able to view the recordings on the site and the reference materials. So if you have any issues or questions about that, please let me know, and we'll try to get that worked out. So I guess that's it for today. Marshall, anything else you want to conclude with?
No, that's good. I look forward to Thursday, our final session for this 4-part series on preparing to build.
Okay. Well, I will be sending out the invitation for Thursday probably tonight or tomorrow, so be looking for that, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.